She kissed him like it meant everything, like it would wreck her if she didn't. Her lips trembled against his, soft and slow, then suddenly desperate, as if she was trying to burn her secrets into his skin. And for a moment, he let himself believe it was real, that the kiss was truth, that she wasn't lying. But deep down, he already knew. No one kissed you like that, and walked away the next day, unless they were hiding something. Elias Crane had always been a man of logic, straight lines, clean answers, hard truths. As a forensic linguist, his life revolved around the weight of words, their hidden meanings, the slips that betrayed liars. But with her, nothing made sense. Her name was Selene. She'd appeared 6 months ago like a ghost through the glass of his favorite coffee shop. Black leather gloves, dark eyes, rain in her hair. She asked to share his table, said hers was broken. She sipped her espresso like it was a confession, smiled like it hurt. And every time she looked at him it felt like a dare. They met again the next week, and the next. She never told him much, but she listened to him talk, really listened, tilted her head when he got passionate about a case, bit her bottom lip when he corrected her French. She touched his hand once. That single brush made his pulse spike like a gunshot. He knew the signs, knew how infatuation rewrote logic, but still, she stayed in his mind like a wine stain bleeding slowly, dark and stubborn. He told himself it was nothing, that he was just bored. But when she kissed him finally, unexpectedly, at midnight on the cracked steps outside his apartment, he stopped pretending. And then she was gone. No text, no call, her number disconnected. Her apartment suddenly vacated, like she'd never existed. That was 4 nights ago. Now he sat in the same coffee shop, staring at the door like a fool, rereading every second of that kiss. It wasn't just the kiss, it was the ache behind it, the grip of her hands in his hair, the way her breath caught when he touched her lower back, how her body leaned into him like she'd been starving for it for him. That kiss wasn't casual. It was the kind of kiss that rewrites timelines. But it was also a lie. And that was what twisted the knife. He should have been furious. But all he could think about was how her lips felt, how her voice shook when she whispered his name. Elias downed the rest of his coffee and stood. He deleted her number, erased the photos. But his mind wouldn't cooperate. It painted her over everything, over the silence in his bed, over the steam from his morning tea, over the empty chair across the table. He hated her for that. And still, he wanted her more than ever. The rain started again as he stepped outside, just like the night she kissed him. Maybe that's why he noticed the figure standing across the street. Black coat, leather gloves. Selene. He blinked. She didn't move, just stood there, eyes locked with his, as if daring him again. Then, slowly, she turned and walked away. Elias's heartbeat roared in his ears. He should have let her go, should have walked the other direction. But his legs moved before his brain caught up, and suddenly he was running through the rain, past blinking headlights and angry horns, chasing the ghost that kissed him like salvation and lied like sin. He turned the corner, where she disappeared, and froze. She stood beneath a broken street lamp, soaked to the skin, staring at him like he'd made a mistake. "Why did you run?" he asked, breathless. She didn't answer. Her lips were parted, but no words came. "You kissed me," he said. "You made me believe." "I know," she interrupted. Her voice was quiet, like a confession. "And I shouldn't have." His jaw clenched. "Then why did you?" Selene took a step forward. The rain clung to her like silk. Her eyes were shadowed, torn between need and guilt. "Because I needed to know," she whispered. "If I could feel something again." He stared at her. The lie still burned, but beneath it was something real, something broken. He moved closer, inches now. Her breath hitched. "Did you?" he asked. "Feel something?" She didn't speak, just reached up and touched his face softly, like it would hurt her to do it. And then she kissed him again, slower this time, less desperate, more deliberate. It wasn't the kiss of a liar, but it still felt like a warning. The kiss should have ended things. Elias should have pulled away, demanded answers, walked away from the woman who vanished like vapor and came back just to confuse him again. But her mouth was warm, trembling, open against his, and the moment he tasted her again, he didn't want answers, he wanted more. She kissed like a woman who didn't deserve forgiveness but begged for it anyway, like she was trying to give him something she couldn't say out loud. The soft pressure of her lips, the way her fingers curled in his jacket, the ragged sound in her throat, none of it felt fake. When she finally pulled away, it was like someone had cut a thread between them. Her hand lingered on his chest, fingers played over his heartbeat. Her eyes, wet with rain and something deeper, refused to meet his. "I shouldn't have come back," Selene whispered. Elias reached up, wrapped his hand around hers, holding it there against his chest. "Then why did you?" She flinched, her mouth opened and closed again. He studied her in the flickering lamplight. Selene wasn't the same woman from the cafe. There was something worn about her now, something fragile beneath all the sharp lines. Her coat was soaked, her pulse unsteady beneath her skin, her eyes full of war. "Come upstairs," he said quietly. She blinked. "Elias, you're freezing. You're shaking. Just come inside." For a long, stretched second, she didn't move. Then slowly, she nodded. Neither of them spoke as they walked the few blocks to his apartment. He opened the door, let her step in first. She peeled off her coat like it weighed 100 pounds, rainwater dripping onto the hardwood. Her sweater clung to her in damp curves, and Elias's breath caught for reasons he couldn't admit. He handed her a towel. She took it with a faint smile. "You're too kind." "I'm not," he said, locking the door behind her. "I just don't want to watch you catch pneumonia." She dried her face, and for the first time, he noticed the faint bruising near her collarbone. His heart stilled. "What happened to you?" Selene looked away. "Nothing." "Don't lie to me again." That made her freeze. Elias stepped forward, gently brushed aside the damp fabric near her neck. The bruise was small, but dark fresh, not from an accident. Someone had grabbed her. Hard. Her voice came out tight. "It's not what you think. You don't even know what I'm thinking," he said, his hand still near her collarbone. She looked up at him then, and something broke open behind her eyes. Pain, fear, longing. "I'm not who you think I am." Elias didn't pull away. "Then tell me who you are." Silence. Just the soft ticking of the kitchen clock, and the sound of her shallow breaths. Then, in a whisper. I worked for them. Her eyes flickered toward the window, as if even inside his apartment, someone might be listening. The people who silence truth, who erase names, the ones you write reports about, but never see. He stared at her. I was part of it, she said, until I wasn't, until I knew what they were really doing. Elias stepped back slowly, trying to process. Why come to me? Because your reports. Her voice shook. You were the only one seeing the pattern, even when no one else could. You were the first man I thought might believe me, and you kissed me because I was never supposed to feel anything, she said, eyes brimming. And you made me feel everything. God, that should have made him furious, should have made him slam the door and leave her alone with her riddles. But instead, it made him want to hold her until her breathing slowed, until the lie in her kiss became something honest. He reached out, brushed his thumb along her jaw. You still didn't answer the question. What question? He leaned in, lips near her ear. Did you feel something? The first time, Selene's body tensed, like every nerve had gone electric. Then she turned her face slowly, until their mouths were just a breath apart. Yes, she whispered. I felt like I'd burn if I didn't taste you again. And this time, it wasn't a lie. He kissed her, deeper, slower, with no questions this time, just heat, hunger, and a silent war between restraint and need. Her hands roamed beneath his shirt, tracing every scar, every memory. He lifted her gently onto the kitchen counter, her legs wrapping around him like instinct. Their kiss turned feral, then tender, then desperate again. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, he whispered against her mouth, You can't keep disappearing on me. I won't, she whispered back. But her eyes said maybe. She stayed the night, wrapped in a stolen moment. Selene curled against Elias beneath his worn navy sheets, her breath steadying in the hollow of his chest. For hours, neither of them spoke. Their bodies did all the talking. Fingertips dragged across ribs, lips found old scars. Mouths searched each other like there was truth buried in the heat between them. It wasn't just sex. It was something messier, angrier, a slow surrender built on all the things they weren't saying. And it scared the hell out of him. Elias stared at the ceiling long after she'd fallen asleep. The bruise on her collarbone haunted him. So did her words. They erased names. They silenced truth. He was used to abstract threats, faceless institutions. But Selene wasn't a case file. She was flesh and blood and trembling heat. He ran a hand down her bare spine. She shifted in her sleep, her leg tightening around his, as if even unconscious, she didn't want to let go. He almost didn't either. But when dawn crawled in, something changed. Her body tensed before her eyes even opened, like she felt the danger arrive. What is it? He whispered. She didn't answer, just sat up, scanning the room, naked and alert, every part of her suddenly on edge. Elias sat up too. Selene, they found me, she whispered. A sharp chill shot down his spine. What? She turned to him, eyes wide and fragile. I was supposed to keep moving. One day, one city. No attachments. But I stayed. I let them see me. I let you touch me. He reached for her hand. We can fix this. we'll disappear. I can help. No, she said, voice sharp. If I run again, they'll chase. But if I fight, maybe I buy time. He stood and pulled on his jeans, blood pumping like a drumline. Fight how? Selene's fingers trembled as she reached for her coat. From the inner lining, she pulled a black flash drive, small, scratched, and warm from her skin. She held it out like it was something holy or cursed. This has everything, she said. Names, orders, surveillance files, including the ones they kept on you. Elias froze. They've been watching you since I first made contact. She continued. You were flagged as a risk before I ever said your name out loud. He took the drive from her, his breath heavy. And what happens if I give this to the wrong person? Then you vanish, or worse. He looked at her. She wasn't lying this time, and that terrified him more than anything. Why trust me? With this, her voice broke. Because I don't trust myself not to run again. The knock on the door came like ATHUNDRCLAP. Both of them froze. 3 knocks. Slow. Measured. Selene's eyes widened. It's them. Without thinking, Elias grabbed her arm and pulled her into the bathroom window. Fire escape. She climbed out first, nimble and silent. He followed, clutching the flash drive tight in his palm. Below them, a black car idled. At the curb, 2 figures stepped out, one in a gray coat, the other in black tactical gear. Both moved like ghosts trained to kill. They climbed down 2 more floors, then dropped into the alley. Rain soaked them instantly, but neither stopped. They ran, past dumpsters, broken fences, neon signs flickering in dirty puddles, their breath visible in the morning chill. Elias didn't ask where they were going. He just followed the grip of her hand in his. Finally, she led him into the basement of a closed laundromat. She slammed the door shut and braced it with a rusted bar. Her hair dripped over her cheeks. Her chest rose and fell like she'd just outrun a war. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? He breathed. For all of it. And then, like she couldn't hold it back another second, she kissed him again. This time, it wasn't a seduction. It wasn't a lie. It was something primal, something desperate. A collision of fear and desire. Their bodies found each other. In the shadows, clothes tugged. Breathless groans swallowed between kisses. Skin pressed hard against the cold cement wall. Her nails clawed his back. His mouth dragged down her neck. Every touch said, don't let go. Even when they both knew they might not make it to the next sunrise. She moaned his name like it was the only truth left. And when it was over, when they collapsed onto the cracked floor, tangled and heaving, Elias turned to her and whispered, what happens now? Selene's voice was barely audible. Now we decide whether to run or burn everything down. The rain didn't stop. It hammered the city like a war drum as Elias and Selene lay side by side on the basement floor. The air thick with sweat, fear, and something far more dangerous, hope. Elias turned the flash drive over in his palm like it was a loaded gun. Maybe it was. Whatever lived inside this sliver of metal could burn down institutions, could erase lives, could save them or damn them both. He looked over at her. Selene's skin still glistened, her body warm beside his. Her lips were swollen from kisses they never should have shared, and her eyes, those dark, haunted eyes, flicked between the door and his face. How long before they find us? He asked quietly. Hours. If that. You always had a plan, didn't you? Selene let out a soft, bitter laugh. No, I only had instincts. Until you. Elias sat up, pulled on his damp shirt. You kissed me the first night we met. I know. And then you ran. I had to. But you came back. I couldn't stay away. He nodded, half smiling, though his heart clenched. So what happens if we fight this? We don't get a second chance, she said. There's no courtroom, no appeals. They'll bury us and make it look like an accident. He stood, moved to the tiny window near the ceiling. Outside, dawn was trying to crawl through the fog. You said there were names on this drive. Yes, he turned. Then let's use it. Selene blinked. What? We leak it, Elias said. Not to the press, they'll kill this story before it breathes. No. We go deeper. To the people who can't be bought. Open source networks. Whistleblower channels. Her mouth parted. That's suicide. Maybe, he said, stepping closer. But so is hiding. You came to me for a reason. Selene, let me do what I do best. Let me make them bleed with the truth. She stared at him for a long, weighted beat. Then, slowly, nodded. I know someone, she said. Off-grid, secure relay. But it has to be in person. Where? Warehouse District. The old pier. 40 minutes. No stops. Elias reached for her hand. She gave it without hesitation. And just like that, they ran again. They stole a car from a chop shop on 9th. A rusted-out black coupe that coughed when it started, but didn't draw attention. Selene drove fast, but clean, weaving through early morning traffic like she'd done it 100 times. Elias watched her from the passenger seat, one hand on her thigh, the flash drive burning a hole in his coat pocket. She didn't say much, just tapped the steering wheel and glanced at the rearview mirror every few seconds. When they pulled onto the pier, the fog hung thick, swallowing the ends of every dock. The sea beyond was a void. Only a few warehouses remained gray, silent, rotting from the salt and time. Selene parked beside a graffiti-covered freight container. We go on foot from here. They stepped out, boots crunching over broken glass and wet gravel. The wind stung Elias's eyes. Selene moved with intent, each step precise, her hand grazing the inside of her coat. She had a weapon, of course. She did. They reached the warehouse at the far end, an old shipping relay with shattered windows and rusted panels. Selene knocked 3 times, paused, then twice more. A moment passed. The door cracked open. A man appeared, bald, bearded, eyes sharp. He looked Elias over, then met Selene's gaze. You're late. Had company, she said flatly. We need the relay, now. He grunted and waved them inside. The interior looked like a hacker's fevered dream, wires tangled like vines. Servers stacked high, blue and red lights blinking in the dark. Screens flickered with security cams, coded scripts, and encryption channels. Elias handed over the drive. The man plugged it in, fingers flying over a keyboard. This isn't just dangerous, he muttered. This is nuclear. If I send this out, it can't be undone. We know, Selene said. Are you sure? Elias looked at her. She looked at him, their fingers laced together. Without thinking, do it, Elias said. The man nodded and hit enter. A Soft beep. A confirmation screen. And then the world started to burn. They didn't speak as they left the warehouse. There was nothing left to say. They'd crossed a line, exposed something rotten to the light. And now the only thing left was to wait for the storm to come. Selene leaned against him as they stood near the edge of the pier, the wind lashing her hair against his jaw. He held her tighter than he ever had. "I don't deserve you," she said softly. "No," Elias replied, pressing a kiss to her temple. "But you have me anyway." Thunder rolled in the distance. Sirens wailed somewhere inland. They'd made a choice. Now they had to survive it. They didn't run anymore. There was nowhere left to go. By the time the first government leak hit the open networks, Elias and Selene were already ghosts holed up in a borrowed cabin on the edge of now. Here, where the sky was wide and the silence didn't feel like a threat. For the first time in weeks, they didn't have to sleep with weapons under their pillows. But peace wasn't peace. Not really, because the truth had a price. And they both knew it hadn't been paid in full yet. Elias stood on the porch that morning, mug in hand, watching clouds crawl across the sky. The news had gone viral just like they planned. The files from the drive had exposed decades of illegal surveillance, black ops renditions, assassinations buried under bureaucratic dust, names, locations, chains of command. It was already too big to bury, but with truth came consequences. Selene stepped beside him, her bare feet silent on the wood. She looked different now, less armored, more human. Her hoodie swallowed her, and there was a sleepy tilt to her smile, like she hadn't woken from the nightmares just yet. "They found your name," she said quietly. "I know. You're on the feeds." He turned to her. "So are you." She shrugged. "I've been hunted before. Not like this," he said. "This time, the whole world's watching." Selene took his mug and sipped, then leaned into him. Her body was warm, her hair messy, her kiss still on his lips from the night before. But there was something in her posture, something weighted. "Final. You're leaving," he said. It wasn't a question. She closed her eyes. "They'll never stop. And now that you're in it with me, I can't keep putting you in the crosshairs. Too late for that." "I know." He took a long breath. "Then let me come with you." Selene looked up at him. Her eyes shone not with fear, but love. A love that had fought its way through lies, betrayal, and blood. A love born from ashes and sirens. Real, fragile, unforgiving. And yet, she shook her head. "You're the only one left who can speak freely now," she whispered. "You can finish what we started. You can give this truth a voice." He cupped her face. "Selene." She kissed him, slow, painful, the kind of kiss people write novels about, the kind that tastes like goodbye. And he kissed her back like it might bring her back to life. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead to his and whispered, "Don't forget me." He smiled, a tear sliding down his cheek. "I couldn't even if I tried." That night, she was gone. No note, no sound, just her scent on his pillow and the faint warmth in the sheets where she'd curled into him one last time. 2 months passed. The world changed. Protests exploded. Leaders resigned. Investigations spread like wildfires. The name Elias Crane became legend, the truth maker. They called him the man who gave everything up to expose a machine of lies. But behind every interview, every op-ed, every camera flash, he looked for her. In alleyways, in airports, on rooftops in every city he visited, always wondering if he'd turn and find her watching him from the shadows. He'd did in single quotes dot until the day she saved his life. It happened outside a broadcast studio in DC. A man with a knife, hidden in the crowd, lunging with wild eyes and whispered orders from someone above. Elias never saw the blade, but she did. She stepped out of nowhere, leather gloves, black coat. Like the first time they met, the attacker fell before he reached Elias, twitching from the shock of a silent dart to the throat. Security scrambled. Chaos unfolded. But Selene was already walking away. Elias chased her down the alley, grabbed her arm, spun her round. "You came back," he breathed. "I never left," she said. He pulled her into him. She melted like she always had, strong and trembling, wild and familiar. She kissed him again. Not like a lie, not like a goodbye, but like a promise. When they finally parted, her voice was barely audible. "You were the only truth I ever had." He smiled. "Then stay." She looked at him, and this time, she did.